Today I'm going to be talking about how I found it to be in Kosovo. Now, just to clear it up before I start, I will be referring to Kosovo as an area or a region. An area or a region can be a country, it can be part of a country. I'm trying to stay neutral on the debate between Serbia and Kosovo, okay? I decided to make a separate video about it because I personally had very different experiences in the two countries. So there are some interesting border crossing situations when you are going in and out of Kosovo because of its limited recognition. And between Kosovo and Serbia, you can enter Serbia from Kosovo if you have Kosovo citizenship, or if you originally entered Kosovo from Serbia. However, if you are to enter Kosovo from Albania, Montenegro, or North Macedonia, you cannot then go on to go into Serbia, or at least where your passport would be checked to say that you are going into Serbia. This did lead to some interesting times, but I will be uploading a separate video detailing my exact transport routes and all the problems I encountered during that trip. So subscribe. The bus station is quite far out of the city, so I did have to, and for some reason I did not have signal in Kosovo, so I had to take a taxi from a nearby petrol station. I stayed in a hostel called Moon Hostel. On the first evening, I arrived there about 3 or 4 in the evening, so I went into the hostel and it was quite nice. They showed me to my room. I needed to get some cash out. Now in Kosovo they use the euro, as eventually they would like to join the EU and they see the euro as a stable currency. So I go to a couple of different cash machines. I want to get about 30 euros out as I'm only there for 3 nights. However, I try 3 different cash machines and all of them charge me a service fee of 5 euros. I kept going to the next one thinking, you can't charge me that much to just withdraw money. So I kept going to the next one and it was like, all of them charge 5 euros. So I ended up paying about £34 for 30 euros, which is absurd. It would have cost me more if I had tried to use my card for all the payments I made there. When I went into my room and I started to unpack some of my stuff, I was trying to put my travel plug into the socket so that I could charge up my phone and my iPad. This led to, so the extension cord, it was weirdly connected at the point between so it's got 4 holes here and then the connector, and as I tried to move it to plug something in, all these sparks just, it blew a fuse, I think, because that socket didn't work afterwards. I was kind of terrified, to be totally honest with you. So I go back to the reception. The hostel owner didn't speak great English, so I'm just like, electricity, bang, bang. And he moved my room because I can't charge my phone or anything in that room because that room now has no electricity. So the other room, the sockets worked, they didn't become a fire hazard at any point. I was happier in the other room. Now, there were only 3 people staying at the hostel whilst I was there, and as I was the only female there, I had the room to myself. I went into the town on the first evening to get food. I got this really dodgy meat. I went back and I couldn't work out how to use the stove at all, so I had to ask another man there who was originally Albanian. He was sort of saying, oh, I don't know how it works either. Eventually, anyway, neither of us could get it to work. So I took the spaghetti, which I had, and I boiled it in the kettle. It was about half cooked and it didn't taste that great. Now, the hotel owner came back in the evening and he came back to check on everything before going home, as there was a curfew. So in Kosovo, you couldn't be out past 10:30 because of the national curfew due to COVID. And he asks me what on earth I'm doing and proceeds to show me that I'm just being an idiot and can't use a stove. There's always something you can't get to work. So I then recooked my spaghetti and I had now cooked spaghetti and also cooked meat that I could actually eat. So my first full day in Kosovo, I spent exploring Pristina. I walked down the main street, I went to the market, I just walked around. There were a lot of interesting stalls and stuff where I bought a fridge magnet, because when I go away I always get a fridge magnet from the place where I visited. I realised at this point that Pristina was a lot smaller than what I had expected it to be. There was only one magnet I could find in the entirety of Pristina. I was also told that to put my mask back on by a policeman. I didn't realise that was a rule, but apparently it was, and I didn't know. Second day. Rain, 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 and more rain. Reminded me of England, really. Anyway, despite this, I wanted to find the train station, as the following morning I was due to get a train out to Skopje, because I couldn't go directly into Serbia due to the problem I explained earlier with the border. I don't exactly know why there's a border there, but there is, and I wouldn't have been allowed across it. So I was planning on going to Skopje and then changing to a bus in Skopje, which would have taken me originally to Niš. So I went to the train station and I found one member of staff working there who only spoke Albanian. I'm trying to ask if there's anyone else in the office or anyone that can speak English, and no one does, so I had to leave that and go back the following morning and hope for the best. I walked to the shopping centre in central Pristina, mostly because I wanted to get out of the rain, and there was a device which sort of looked like an airport security scanner outside the front of the shopping centre. Naturally, I walked through it and I think, is this place supposed to be dangerous or something? So I stand in the middle of it and it sprays me with sanitizer. I wasn't expecting it. I was just there, sort of, what do I do now? Yeah, needless to say, that was a bit weird, but at least the next time I went in there, I was prepared for it. I also went to see the Newborn Monument, which is probably one of the main sites in Pristina. They frequently redecorate it. The Newborn Monument in Kosovo currently stands for Never-Ending Wars Bring Oppression, Rape and Neglect. A very meaningful monument, and I believe it refers to its fight for freedom from Serbia. The monument was erected in order to show that they were their own nation. They wanted to be more than just an area of Serbia. They wanted to be their own independent country, and also it was referring to coming out of Yugoslavia and being the newborn Pristina, the newborn land that was better than before. I didn't spend that much time outside on my second day because it was raining, so I did go into my hostel a bit earlier on that day. My third day consisted of me getting up at 6:30 in the morning, taking a taxi to the train station that was over a mile away. Well, you'll hear the rest in one of my upcoming videos. It was probably the most interesting day of my trip when I found out that nothing would be going to plan from then onwards. But anyway, I thought I'd share here a picture of Kosovo train station. Now, you might be able to see it has two platforms, places which are similar in terms of the amount of people who live there. In places like England, the city I live in has a smaller population than Pristina, and we have, I believe, 8 platforms on our train station, and it certainly doesn't look like that. Also, I saw that the platform was very close to the ground, meaning that I guess you'd have to sort of climb up to the train, whereas where I am in the UK, our platforms are higher so that we go directly onto the train. There was not much security at the train station. There was a simple double wooden door at the front. When you went inside, there was sort of a ticket office on your right, and then a further set of double wooden doors that were locked to get onto the actual platform. this was very odd to me because there was no one there when I first arrived at 6:30 or about 7 when I actually got there. And when I walked in, I just opened the first set of doors, sat on a bench inside, because the second set of doors were locked until someone came along. I was there before any member of staff. So just to talk a bit about what the actual culture is like in Kosovo. Everyone speaks Albanian there. They make it very clear that they do wish to separate from Serbia. They do make it clear. No, I heard no one at any point speaking Serbian. No writing was in Serbian. Everything was done in Albanian there. Their English was actually not great either. But I guess that comes with it being a much more rural place. Actually, on the way to the train station on my last day, I had to speak in broken French to my taxi driver because he didn't speak a word of English and I didn't speak a word of Albanian. The closest thing we had was very broken French. The roads were typically of lower quality than what I have seen in other similar places. There were paths that were made of bricks that were sort of just falling apart, sort of falling away into the road, just tipping sideways. The whole air just felt a lot more dusty. I don't know if that's due to maybe the older cars producing more pollution. It felt very old-fashioned, maybe. The people there were really helpful though. If I asked someone for help, they'd do their best to help me, even if they didn't speak English. So in comparison, for the population of Kosovo, it is closest in terms of finding an actual country, which it can be compared to the Pacific island nation of Samoa. In terms of this being the capital city of a country in Europe, that's tiny. It has 200,000 people living there. Just to compare it to Belgrade, that has 1.4 million people. London, 9 million. New Delhi, 21.75 million. It's crazy to think that that is the capital city. It's really small by most people's standards. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. They used to be displayed on our fridge, but since we now have a sort of built-in fridge, and therefore it's not magnetic, my mum bought some magnet boards which are hanging over our toilet.